When I was a kid, I grew up in my dad's beauty salon, barber shop. I used to come by and hang out with him on the weekends, and so I was basically in there all the time. The name of his place is Ritz Look, and he got that name from putting on the Ritz. So if you know that song, I think it's a Sinatra song, but basically it's putting on the Ritz. And so it was about rich people looking good, feeling good, and putting on the Ritz. And so he decided to make a salon Ritz Look, where people come in and they leave with that Ritz look. Your hair's done, your nails are done, you feel good, right? Your makeup. And so right next door, they even sold clothes. It wasn't him, somebody else, but that was his mantra, his idea. And so years after he opened, he had a simple kind of older barber shop. Years later, he got some money together and decided to remodel the entire place. He spoke with his landlord, who owned the building, and they were able to he was able to rent out, in addition to the first floor retail, he took 2 residential units on top of his building. He had them converted from residential to commercial. He cut out a hole from the first floor to the second floor and put in a spiral staircase. First floor was all gonna be hair, and second floor was gonna be dedicated to nails and the spa. He literally built a spa up there. It was the first one of its kind that was a beauty salon with a spa built in, like a true spa. And they had a jacuzzi, steam room, sauna. And there were nights that I spent there with my stepbrother, and we hung out as, you know, sons of the owner, and we loved it. Profitably, like business-wise, it didn't make as much money as he was hoping. And so he got rid of the sauna and the steam room, and he converted all that space into manicure area. And so he had just the whole second floor was manicures, the first floor was hair. And plus they did waxing and makeup on the second floor. So he had it split up. Hair downstairs, nails and hands, cosmetics upstairs. And so why I'm telling you this, because that's where I come from. That's the school I come from. So while he was doing that renovation, he was cutting hair up the block at a small little barber shop. The place is probably still there, and the guy might still be there cutting hair. Actually, one day I gotta go check it out. But he explained it to me. He's like, Steve, he's like, while I'm working, I'm down here cutting hair. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm like, what kind of deal did you make? How are you working in someone else's salon? He says, well, basically I rented a chair. I'm like, oh, okay, how does that work? He's like, well, I rent the chair, and whatever I charge is my money, and I just pay for the actual rental of the chair. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. What are you charging? He's like, same price I normally charge. I'm like, what is that? He's like $25 at the time. This was like in the 90s. I'm like, $25? He's like, yeah. I'm like, this guy's charging 12. He's like, yeah. He's like, and I charge 25. And I'm like, and you're in his salon charging double what he charges, and you're busy? And he's like, let me explain something to you. You get what you paid for. And people will pay more for a better value. And so they'll pay. I'm like, what do you mean? Explain it to me. So he explains that in order for him to do the renovation, in order for him to drive a Mercedes, I think at the time he still had a Honda Accord, brand new, but he didn't have a car for years. He finally got himself a Honda Accord, and eventually he got himself a Mercedes. And then he drove kind of Benzes for the rest of his life. But in order for him to get to that level, he had to charge what he needed to charge in order to cover his expenses, in order to live a certain lifestyle. And so while everyone else was charging $10 and $12 for haircuts, he kept raising his price every year. $15, $18, $20, $25. He was already double the guy that he was now working in his salon. He rented a chair, and he was busy. People came it was up the block. It was like literally on the same side of the street, up the block. You know, maybe like 1 block up. And so people would come, and they would wait for him. And they didn't go get the $12 haircut. They waited, and they paid $25 to him. And they gave him a tip. And, you know, he made his $30, and they all wished him luck. He couldn't wait for him to get his his salon back in order, so they could just go back to his regular salon where he was going to make it beautiful and show people, listen, this is why you've been paying me more, because I'm going to have a nice salon. I'm going to have a nice waiting area. I'm going to have a nice place for you to get coffee, and I'm going to treat you nice and hospitable. And you're going to pull up in your Mercedes, and you know what? And I'm going to have my Mercedes. And so it's going to be like, I believe it's Bergdorf Goodman, where it's ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. So he wanted to live a certain way, and his employees and his, I guess, subcontractors, because he had people renting chairs from him too, because that was the idea, is either you could work for the house or you could rent out a chair. And so he did this, and he was able to increase his value and live like the people that were paying him. Because if the people who were cutting hair, that were getting a haircut for $12, it's because they were looking for a haircut for $12 because that's all they could afford. They weren't driving Benzes. These weren't people with a lot of money. He wanted money. He wanted to live like the people that had the money to pay him for that premium haircut. So what did he do? He charged a premium. And he got himself to a point so he could act and feel and be just like the customers that he was serving. And so he stayed in that guy's salon until his was ready. And he told me, he's like, Steve, you'll see this salon where the guy charges $12 a haircut. Even when I'm gone and years later, it'll continue to be $12 a haircut. He won't be able to raise the price because people will leave and they'll go find someone down the block who's $1 or $2 cheaper. How many haircuts can he have or can he do in those 8 hours? There's only so many you can do. So you end up trying to get done faster so you can keep up with the demand, so you can have enough money to live. Expenses go up every year. Everything goes up. Everything's expensive. How is this barber at $12 a haircut going to sustain his business? And so little by little, prices go up. So I'm curious now to see what, like 25, 30 years later, to go back and see what those people are charging, if he's still around. But you know, there's places that charge $10 or $15 a haircut, and there's places that charge $30 and $40 a haircut. And there's a difference. And so when I went into business, I realized that, in the beginning, just to get the work, just to get my name out there, just like my dad probably did, he started off with what he could. And he charged, like everyone else on the bottom, just to get his, get people foot in the door. Here, try me. And as he realized that he was good and people were willing to pay more, and why work the same amount of hours and work so hard for the same money? Why not work less and make more? Why not charge a little bit more? And instead of having, 10 haircuts today, I'll do 6, but I'll make the same money because I'll get 6 people to pay me the same amount that 10 people used to pay me. So raise your price from $10 to $15, or raise your price from 12 to 20, right? And so, yeah, he'll do less haircuts, but he'll make the same money. And he won't be as tired because he won't be on his feet killing himself as much because he'll have more time in between those haircuts to work on marketing, to work on the business, to work on hiring other people, right? Because now he has a little bit more time because he's working less, because he's not as booked out because his price is a little higher. So these are all business things that I was learning as a kid from my dad. And then I went to school, I'm watching these podcasts, I'm now 40, and I'm like, people are still talking about this. This is how it works. This is how you raise your price. This is how you raise the value. This is how you get people to pay you more for what seems like the same job, but it's not the same job because it's not the same experience. When I started my job, when I started my business, I realized that what are people paying for? It's not just the actual work. It's the experience. It's the experience that the contractor provides to them. From the moment, phone call is made, how is it returned? How is it handled? Do you get someone on the line that's articulate and speaks English? Do you get someone on the line that actually knows what they're doing? Or is it a calling service? When they show up to your house, are they clean? Are they knowledgeable? Are they respectful? Did they do exactly like they said they would? Is there a warranty process? Did they keep it clean? Did they show up on time? Did they finish within the time that they said they would? These are all things that don't necessarily have to do with the actual quality of the work. It's the experience. If there was a problem with the work and they called, did they get an attitude? Or did they get a nice, friendly person who was like, of course, we'll take care of it. Let me come out and see. Made an appointment, came out, take a look at it, fixed it, no extra charge. It's the experience. Did the place make a mistake? Maybe. But did they make it right? Yes. And that's the difference. Again, it's experience. So if you can provide a better experience, people are willing to pay for it. People are willing to pay premium prices, although the items seem like they do the same thing. Like haircuts. You think, oh, you're getting a haircut here or a haircut there. Why is one so much more expensive? Because it depends on who's cutting your hair. It depends on which salon you're in when you do it. It depends on whether there was parking or not. Did you have to wait long? Was the person respectful? Was he dressed clean and nice? What type of music were they playing in the establishment? Was it a nice place or did it feel ghetto? Did it feel like a high-end place? And people are willing to pay high-end prices, $80, $100, $200 a haircut, because he's in Manhattan and he's on Fifth Avenue and he's dealing with people that, you know, everyone's got a, you know, Rolex, and he's around fancy people. Yeah, that place is gonna charge a lot more, but the experience is gonna be different. Will the actual haircut be any different? Who knows? But it's the experience. It's what you're paying for, not the actual work experience. It's the environment, the experience of like you going there and how you felt. That's what you're paying for. When you drive a car, is it gonna take you from point A to point B? Yeah. But is the experience gonna be the same if you're sitting in a Ford versus a Mercedes? No. Is the experience the same if you're in a Kia versus a BMW? Absolutely not. And so yeah, while they'll both get you to the same place and they're, you know, substitute products and they're kind of doing the same thing, the experience is way different. Let's put on clothes. When you put on clothing, and this is a name brand of a company. There's a name brand on my shirt, Grunt Style. This isn't a no-name shirt. There's a name brand. People pay for brands. People pay for Louis Vuitton, for Gucci, Prada. These are the most high-end premium brands in the world. People pay top dollar. You get a t-shirt from Givenchy for $800. Louis Vuitton t-shirt, $950. You kidding me? Almost $1,000 for a t-shirt? You can go into Old Navy, Gap, Express, $50 max for a t-shirt. And then there's somewhere in between $300-$400 t-shirts. And then there's